So I hope I've convinced you you're going to give students a chance to think. The next question is, what are your students going to think about? If you simply set an unthought out, unreflected question for your class, which we often do, I often joke in my own class, I'm sorry, this is my favorite game, guess what's in Tim's head. We do that all the time. It's actually insulting to students. Literally, guess what's going through my mind right now, or they're so simple, a yes, no answer, repeat what was just said, that students really don't feel a need to participate. They feel that it would be unflattering for them to jump in and give an answer because they're just pleasing you. So if you're really going to ask for discussion in a class, you have to ask a thoughtful question. The thing is, over a buzz group where you might do think, pair, and share, I would argue that the question should change. You really want to move from simpler questions, not simple-minded questions, but things that work at the base of what you're talking about, and then as a group, students can take those ideas further. So how would this work? I've taught developmental psychology in the past. I'm teaching personality now. And I'm going to use an example from developmental psychology. When we begin a section on adolescence, it's a part of the course I really enjoy a lot because it is such an interesting period of change in our lives. Students think that they know everything about it already. That's a problem with social sciences, too. And so we can begin by, for example, asking the question, I want you to take a moment now to think about what were the changes that you experienced in your life as you went through adolescence. And it's simply a brainstorming activity. Just generate ideas. And I'll give time for people to do that with an explicit instruction that there'll be no noise in this room, please. It will be quiet. Some of you will finish early. Continue to work on your own, but let's not start talking to our neighbors until we're all done, and I will signal that. So we make this time for thinking a very sacred time, because everyone needs a different amount of it. And so they begin with a simple task. I have them think about things that they experienced when they were in adolescence. There's a couple of important things here. It's a simple task in terms of it's descriptive, it's straightforward in terms of a list, but it's also deeply experiential. You're now linking the individual learner to the place you want to go in your own teaching. After the students have had a chance to think for a while, I then ask them to speak to the person next to them or someone close to them. Now I phrase it a little differently. It's not making a list together anymore, but comparing lists and to talk about differences between your lists, or to look for where there might be commonalities in the way you express things or differences. But you're not doing anything more than learning that you're not so different, in a sense, to see what someone else is thinking about, and to see that most likely your answers aren't so far off from others. This is very important in a large class because one of the reasons that discussion often fails is because when you ask a group of people a question and want them to participate, fear can be the response. I'm afraid that I don't know the right answer. I'm afraid I can be ridiculed. I must say, in my own learning, in various domains, and most recently in horseback riding, in even a small class of 8 people, when the instructor would ask me a question, I would literally freeze, probably going back to when it was like to be in grade 3 and being asked a math question with the fear of, will I get the answer wrong? But learning takes risk, and we want to lower that risk feeling by having students work together in pairs. So we have them thinking, we have a good question for them to think about, we have a strategy for it, and then we turn to have them work in pairs where they can start talking about their answers.